And hello, hockey fans. Welcome back to the Hockey Writers Live, Thursday, May the 6th, the first Thursday in May already. Where is this season gone? Next time we get together, we're going to be talking about the playoffs here. So I figure this would be the perfect opportunity to bring on four of our writers of the first place teams from around the National Hockey League for our panel here on this wonderful Thursday. So let's introduce them to you. First off, we have our Maple Leafs writer, Kevin Armstrong, joining us. Hi, Kevin.
Hey, Mark.
Welcome to the show. Appreciate you joining us.
It's nice to be here. For the Leafs to be in the top spot for this long, we'll take an appearance.
Absolutely. Take whatever you can get. Absolutely. Um, Carolina Hurricanes doing a wonderful season so far. We have Brandon Stanley joining us. Hi, Brandon.
What's going on, guys? Glad to be here.
Pleasure to have you join us tonight. And the Vegas Golden Knights, I tell you what, they've known nothing but success, and they're going to take another strong run at it this year. Michael Vidakis is joining us. Hi, Michael.
Hey, Mark. Happy to be here.
I appreciate you joining us. And finally, the Pittsburgh Penguins, owner of one of the longest consecutive playoff runs in North American sports right now. We have Nick Horwat joining us. Hi, Nick.
Mark, how's it going? Glad to be here, everyone.
Appreciate all four of you joining us. This will be a good time because the next time that we get together on the air, we'll be into the playoffs. Well, not in Canada, but at least in the United States, it'll be really, really close to getting ready for that postseason. I figure this will be a really good time to bring everybody together to kind of summarize how you guys got to this point. So, Kevin, we're going to start with you with the Leafs. And now, pretty much almost wire to wire, they've been in first place. They had that little bit of a slump, but they've really taken off. So, my question for you is pinpoint just a couple of the biggest reasons why the Leafs have been able to really dominate the North.
I like how you started that with how did you get here? Because I'm looking at Michael and like he's had all this success and he's only been around for a couple of years with his team. Well, I have to go back to 1967 to start pinpointing this for you, Mark. So, but I would say, it really started it started in the Columbus series. The team realized that they did not have what it takes for a playoff grind. And right from that point on is when a remodeling of the team started to take place, and they started to bring in older guys, leaders, veterans, and a lot of grit on that team. And then you go into the playout or the trade deadline, and you grab Nick Foligno and get a little bit more depth. And now they're set up to make the run. But it was really started in the off season, and a lot of people were looking at it going like, Joe Thornton's too old, Wayne Simmons has been injured, all these different things, and they've been what was needed to get this team to where it is now.
Brandon, we're going to go to you next with the Canes. Same question about what is it about them, what they've been able to do to get into first place. I think a lot of fans kind of question the goaltending, but it just seems like that they're really clicking on all cylinders. What's worked out for them?
Yeah, so when you think of the Hurricanes, I feel like a lot of people will start with their blue line, right? Jacob Slavin, Dougie Hamilton, Brett Pesce. It's probably the first thing that comes to mind. But really this year, the biggest things that have stuck out to me have been the depth up front and, well, Alex Nedeljkovic. And Peter Mrazek also, but he's been hurt for so much of the year. But their goaltending has been absolutely fantastic this year. Alex Nedeljkovic is 15-4-3 with the sub-2 goals against average and a .932 save percentage, I believe. Really just been what the doctor ordered for the team. This was a guy that was waived back in, put on waivers back in January, and nobody claimed him. Could have had him for free, and now he's turned into probably one of the best goalies in the league this year, honestly, by the numbers. And as I was saying with the forward depth, this is the best top six the Hurricanes have probably had since 2006. The top line of Svechnikov, Aho, and Teravainen has been one of the best lines in hockey. Teravainen's another guy that's been hurt almost all year, but since he's been back, they have been absolutely ridiculous the last few games. So that's definitely a reason for them to be excited moving into the playoffs. And overall depth up front has been really, really impressive.
Michael, the Vegas Golden Knights, just everything's just coming up rolling 12, if you get my drift, with them, where they got good players and they get good players to be able to come in. How are they able to maintain this success, and what's propelled them to, again, being near the top of that division?
Absolutely. I think depth is the biggest key to the Vegas Golden Knights' success. If let's say Mark Stone or Max Pacioretty have an off night, Riley Smith and Alex Tuck will pick up the slack, or Jonathan Marchessault. And yeah, but the performance of the star players this season has been absolutely amazing. Mark Stone, if McDavid wasn't having the season he's having, I'm sure we'd be hearing his name for some hard contention. Max Pacioretty again proving why he's one of the best goal scorers in the game today, and the goalies playing amazing. And Shea Theodore, in my opinion, has been the best defenseman on the Golden Knights this season, just cranking out solid performances night after night. So just the depth of the Golden Knights is, in my opinion, the biggest reason to holding the number one spot in the West Division.
All right, Nick, the Pittsburgh Penguins, the same question. It seems like that they're always battling Washington for the top of that division. They're up right there again with them now. How are they able to continuously do that? With they've had Malkin out for a lot of the year. They've had injuries that they've had to deal with. Just what do they continuously do to be able to stay in that discussion?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. The injuries have been a huge factor on this season, and we're always battling with the Capitals, but this is the first time in a long time that the Penguins have been on top of the division. But the easy answer is to say Crosby and Gensel and Rust on the first line. But beyond that, just like the two teams before, our depth has been incredible this year. The guys that have been able to step up and take the roles of the injured players and really perform at a high level has been incredible to see. Like Radim Sahorna stepping up for his first couple games of his career and scoring a couple goals. And then there's Anthony Angelo, who I never predicted to leave the minors really, but here he was making a difference on the fourth line. So that's been our difference maker. It's been the depth. And, I've been fighting tooth and nail for Frederick Gaudreau to really stay in this lineup as well. He's been a standout on the bottom six as well. So it's been our depth. Our goaltending's been good. Tristan Jarry's had a cold start, but he turned it around and has been a phenomenal starter in his first year as the starter for this team.
Let's switch. We kind of mentioned injuries a little bit. So, Brandon, we're going to go to you with the Canes and kind of give everybody a sense of the injury situation. What kinds of injuries have they dealt with during the season? And are there any major key pieces that they're dealing with now? I know that Teuvo Teravainen just came back. That's obviously a huge return for them, but just where's that at overall?
Right. Teravainen got hit by Nikita Zadorov months ago. He struggled with a concussion he missed over half the season. Peter Mrazek, I mentioned him before as well. He had actually a collision with teammate Max McCormick and had wrist surgery, but he just came back for his first game back. Actually, he came back and then was out for a few games again with another lower body injury. So we're kind of worried about him just a touch and because of rust, maybe, he's missed so much time at this point, but at the same time, you got Nedeljkovic. So when in doubt, turn to the 25-year-old who's been absolutely stellar. Other than that, the big one really, there's actually two, but they're both kind of bottom of the roster players. Or Brock McGinn, who is really the quintessential glue guy for this team. Like, he's a big penalty killer. He always seems to come up with a big shot block, and he has a knack for scoring big goals as well. If you remember 2 years ago when the Hurricanes made their Eastern Conference final run, he's the one that had the game-winning overtime goal against the Washington Capitals in Game 7. So they're waiting on him to get back. There hasn't been a whole lot said about what, specifics. I feel like all year with a lot of teams it's been like that. There's not a whole lot coming out about what exactly the ailments are. But hopefully the Hurricanes are looking to get McGinn back very soon because he is a very big part of what they do. And the other one is Jordan Martinook, alternate captain, another bottom six guy, but another kind of character guy that the Hurricanes definitely want to have back for the stretch run or playoff run.
Okay, very well said. Michael, we'll go to you next with the Golden Knights. I know they've dealt with a few things this year, but just get everybody up to speed on where they're currently at and where they've been from an injury standpoint.
As of right now, they have two players on IR, Ryan Reeves and Thomas Nosek. And Max Pacioretty is out as well with an undisclosed injury. He's day-to-day, it's still big, but day-to-day is not that bad. And apparently I was reading an article, Ryan Reeves is slowly making his way back to the lineup, which is a massive plus because with Ryan Reeves out of the lineup, you have other teams thinking they could take liberties with players, and he's just such a big piece to the team. So it's great to see that he'll be making his way back to the lineup shortly.
And Nick, we could talk all night about the Penguins injury situation, but just kind of give a quick summary of just how much they've been dealt with.
It's been a lot. I mean, to put into perspective, only Brian Rust and Jake Ensel, they're the only players to play every game this season so far. Crosby missed a single game for a COVID protocol situation, and then Cody Ceci missed time for being a healthy scratch. So those are like the only 4 guys that really haven't suffered any sort of injury this year. But I mean, right now it's a couple of key players that are hurt going into the postseason, which is Brandon Tanev, Mike Matheson, who's had a weird season himself, but I mean he's playing well for what it's worth. People weren't excited about him coming to the team, but now we're not excited to see him hurt. And then there's Casey DeSmith, the backup goalie, and Evan Rodriguez, who is another interesting piece that Evan Rodriguez could play almost on all 4 lines. And he's a guy you need back going into the playoffs. He's a good depth piece. And, luckily we were able to get back Malkin and Kapanen recently. So the injury front has been, like you said, we could talk about it all night long, but things are looking up. Guys are getting healthy. And hopefully things can really stay that way, especially going into the playoffs. If we're looking to make a deep run, our depth is there to step up, but who knows how long it can last.
And Kevin, get back to you on the Maple Leafs, and they're dealing with, obviously, Freddie Anderson's been out and going to the AHL. They just lost Nick Foligno, so a lot of things going on there. Fill everybody in on just the overall state of the injury situation.
Yeah, Foligno now day to day. I'm going to miss a couple here, but I don't think it hasn't seemed too concerning. Sheldon Keefe, he has a good poker face, but he's not seeming too concerned that Foligno's gone. I don't think he cares if he has to put him on ice for the next 2 weeks. He's there for one thing, and that's for the playoffs. And Zach Hyman also is skating again, and he is due back probably 2 games before the playoffs start. And Zach Bogosian, a defenseman who won the Stanley Cup last year, he's possible to miss the first couple of games of the first round. And then it all comes down to the net with Frederik Andersen. That is the biggest dilemma in the link all season long for this team has been the goaltenders, and Freddie never played the way we expected him to play all season. He hasn't played since March 19th. So does he come back and be the Frederik Andersen of old? Or the other problem is Frederik Andersen is always a very slow starter. So you can't be a slow starter in the playoffs. So it's really up in the air what they're going to do. Jack Campbell's obviously been playing very well for the Leafs in net, but if you could have Frederik Andersen there, I'm sure they would like a fully 100% the old time Frederik Andersen back for the Leafs.
And fans, in case you're just joining us here, it's the Hockey Writers Live. We're talking to our 4 writers of the first place teams from around the National Hockey League. We have Kevin Armstrong, we have Michael Vidakis, we have Brandon Stanley, and we have Nick Horwat joining us here. So a couple more questions for you guys. Michael, we're going to start with you on this one. The Golden Knights obviously have some challenges that they're going to have to overcome, namely the Colorado Avalanche. That's a pretty obvious one, but what other challenges do you feel like that they have to be able to overcome if they're going to find their ultimate goal?
Yeah, so I actually wrote an article about this, and there was this really big problem they had at the beginning of the season and then towards the middle of the season, where they would kind of take nights off. They would slack for about 1 or 2 periods, and then either mount a comeback in the last 10 minutes, or work off the lead they built in the first period. And in the playoffs, that's not going to fly. People are playing for the Stanley Cup. It doesn't work like that in the playoffs. So if they could overcome that and play a full 60 minutes of hockey every night, the way they do when they went on that 10-game winning streak, I see no problem with them advancing to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Okay, and Nick, again, a lot of good teams, especially in your division, especially in that playoff. What are going to be the biggest challenges that the Penguins are going to have to overcome?
Some of the biggest challenges are going to be the penalty kill, which has been not abysmal, but has been fairly bad most of the season, which is surprising for a team that carries guys like Zach Aston-Reese and Teddy Bluger, who are 2 of the better defensive forwards, at least in the division for sure. But when the penalty kill is lacking, this team doesn't look good. And beyond that, I'll add the the defense into that and saying they need to clear the front of the net more often. That has been an issue all year. It's a little thing. It's a little part of the game, but it's had a major effect on some of the important games for the Penguins this season. They've almost lost a couple of games because, let's say, Chris Letang's, just kind of wandered off behind the net where guys are left open in front for an easy shot. And yet Tristan Jarry is able to make big saves, but he can't do it every time. So if the penalty kill and the net front presence of defenders are able to really step their game up in the postseason, that should go a long way, especially for a PK that is usually pretty good with guys, like I said, with Aston Reese and Bluger.
Very good. Kevin, the Leafs, would love to see the Montreal matchup. If they get into a matchup with the Jets, I know the Jets are on a bit of a downfall right now, but they still can match up with them. What are going to be the biggest challenges besides their history that they're going to have to be able to overcome?
Look at all you guys smiling on that. Jeez.
Well, I'm from Montreal.
It's a new year, boys. It's a new year. But, there's obviously going to be that. And for one reason, that's why some might, as much as the TV broadcasters and the hardcore fans want to see that Montreal series, maybe you don't want to, just for that exact matter, that if there's anything that's going to go wrong, it could go wrong against Montreal. But the biggest thing will be to stick to that game plan that Sheldon Keefe has laid out, so structured. And it kind of sounds similar to what Michael was saying with Vegas. When the Leafs have gone 5-game winning streaks, 5-game losing streaks, 4-game winning streaks, 4-game losing streaks. They play until somebody catches up to them, and then they start losing, and then they start winning again. So if they keep to that structure, because there's some nights, they are floating around out there, but the other nights when somebody's suddenly within 2 to 3 points of them, they play lights out hockey. So that's what I think Leaf Nation is hoping, that they're going to say this is the playoffs now and there is no shift off. And it's going to be, it's how funny it went from Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and Nylander, and they're too young, to now they've got a little bit of old guys in there. And you're going to have to monitor the Joe Thorntons at 41 years old and the playoff grind, and the Spets at 37. These aren't the young bucks they used to be, but they're going to be so needed in the playoff series that we're really going to have to watch how the ice time is used on those guys.
And Brandon, you get the final word on just some of the biggest challenges the Canes are going to have to be able to overcome. Namely, Tampa Bay Lightning, defending champs, are there. That's going to be an awesome series. What else do they have to look out for?
Yeah, I think the way the draw goes, obviously it's probably looking like a second round matchup with Tampa Bay. But for me, the biggest thing they have to show they can overcome is, so in the bubble last year, actually in the year before that as well, they ran into the Boston Bruins. And both times they got swept the first time around and lost in 5 games last year. And the biggest thing for me is showing the Bruins really played a physical style that just took away the Hurricanes game. The Hurricanes are predicated on speed, forechecking, possession. And the Bruins just kind of bullied them, took them off their game, and they just kind of went quietly into the night. So basically they have to prove that they're ready this time around. The playoffs are just a different animal than the regular season. And as good as this team is, as much skill as they have to show that they can, take that punch and give one back. That's really the biggest one for me. And the only other thing I'd say is just proving that the goaltending isn't just a flash in the pan. I mentioned that earlier for what's gone right this year, but that doesn't mean it's 100%, definitely going to happen for the future as well.
Right. Absolutely. One more question for you guys here. Nick, we'll start with you on this one. So, and ask you to kind of get your crystal balls out to say, all right, how is your team going to do at the end of the day? Are they going to make the final? Are they going to win the cup? And then why do you think they do if they do? And what trips them up if they don't?
I think for the Penguins, what will trip them up, I'll kind of steal what Brandon said. It's the Boston Bruins. We have not been able to play against that team, not just this year, but for many years now. If anyone remembers the 2014 year, the Penguins were set to go all the way. It was the Ginley year, and we were playing phenomenal hockey in that. We hit the Boston Bruins and we got swept. We couldn't score a goal. If they stay away from the Bruins, they should fare fairly well, because we can take teams like the Islanders and Capitals. As hard as a series as those might be, we can handle those teams fairly well. And beyond that, I mean, we haven't, obviously it's hard because we haven't seen any other teams outside of the division this year. So it's kind of really hard to say, oh, we can go this far. And who knows how the playoffs reseed after these rounds. But assuming the Penguins either don't play or get the best of the Bruins, I think they can make it another good run. They've looked really good all year. Just got to shape up those few things I talked about earlier. But I'm confident in this team. I think they can really make at least make it out of the East for sure.
Kevin, same question to you about the Leafs. Just how do you think they ultimately do? Why do they have the success if they do? And what trips them up if they don't get there?
I'm actually having cold sweats right now because both Brandon and Nicholas have mentioned the Boston Bruins. So anyway, let me clear my head. But I said it on the Maple Leafs Lounge, and I'll tell you guys as well. For the last who knows how many years, anytime that there's a playoff pool, I always pick the Toronto Maple Leafs to win. And that's just what I do. So yeah, I'm gonna say they're gonna win. And I actually this year I might not give my money away on that pick because of they've done the things that needed to do. The trade deadline could not have gone better for the Maple Leafs by grabbing Nick Foligno, and yep, they paid up with a first round draft pick, but it's worth it if it's into the Stanley Cup final. And they got some defensive depth with Ben Hutton. They got another goaltender in there that's showing at times that he can get very hot in David Rittich. So they've checked all the boxes. Sheldon Keefe has been playing line matchups in different combinations all season long. So he knows the guys that he's going to put with. And now you look at Foligno's likely going to be in that top six. He's been playing with Matthews and Marner, but Hyman coming back, he'll be playing with Tavares and Willie, or you're going to interchange Hyman and Foligno. They're very alike, and those lines have been excellent together. And then you just got to say the bottom six are your shutdown guys. Defense has got to be smart. So they're there, and it's a matter of staying healthy. And man, if Frederik Andersen could come back and play like he did in 16, 17, 18 even, then they would really have a realistic shot.
Okay. Brandon, Carolina Hurricanes. we're
Guys, they can't all win the Stanley Cup, but I'm still going to say it too. I think the Hurricanes are going to win the Cup too. I mean, but honestly, I do think this team has the goods to do it. It's just a complete team. Their offense is fantastic. Their defense is stacked, and they're the number 3 penalty kill in the NHL and the number 2 power play. We know how valuable special teams are this time of year. I mean, there are some matchups in the East, and like you said, we haven't seen them play anybody outside of our division, so we really don't know how these teams match up. But other than Colorado and Vegas, I've watched a lot of hockey lately, and I don't see one team that I really think like, oh yeah, they look a lot better than the Hurricanes. When this team's clicking, they can definitely beat anybody in the NHL.
Michael, we're going to give you the final word of the day here on the Golden Knights, and just how do you feel like that they do at the end of the day?
The first article I ever wrote for the Hockey Writers back in November, it was a pretty bold piece. I said why I believe Vegas takes it all this year. And I still believe that. Like Brandon said, when the Hurricanes are clicking, they could pretty much beat any team. I feel the exact same way about the Vegas Golden Knights. George McPhee, Kelly McCrimmon have done a masterful job with this roster, building it over the past 4 years. And honestly, the only thing that could trip them up is, like I said before, if they get too cocky, start slacking off, they don't practice the basics. Do the basics, do what you're good at. And yeah, I say they win it all.
You're 4 Cup champions.
Yep.
Well, this has been really good stuff by everybody here. So just kind of go around a little bit. Brandon Stanley, who covers the Carolina Hurricanes for us. Michael Vidakis, who covers the Vegas Golden Knights. Nick Horwat, who covers the Pittsburgh Penguins. And Kevin Armstrong, who covers the Toronto Maple Leafs. And make sure they do a show. It is called the Maple Leafs Lounge, and they have a new episode every Sunday here on the Hockey Writers. So make sure, hit that like button on Facebook. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. You won't miss our show. You won't miss his show. We have a lot of shows that we do every week here, so we won't ever miss a thing. Guys, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the Hockey Writers Live.
Absolutely. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, well, fans, we really appreciate your time. We were going to have Josh Yohe on the show. Unfortunately, he had a commitment come up kind of at the last minute, given all the news of the day. So we're going to have him back at a later point. So he'll be back. But in the meantime, thank you for joining us now. Hope you guys have a great week. Have a great weekend. Enjoy all the games, the end of the regular season. And thank you for joining us here on the Hockey Writers Live.